Welcome to the Productive Point of View for Marketing Professionals. Hey, and welcome into the Productive Point of View. This is your host, Jake Jordan, and I have with me today Maxwell Bogner. Maxwell, how you doing today?
Doing good. How you doing, Jake?
Good, man. Appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis.
I actually do two things. Currently, I'm a business consultant for a company called First Data, and so I'm in outside sales, working with new and existing businesses, helping set up their merchant services, so their credit card processing. And then by night, I've actually launched a website called Help Me Close, and helpmeclose.com. It's all about millennials in B2B sales and leadership. So it's been a blast just networking with millennials and networking with leaders, bringing them together. And the reason why I started it is because I noticed that there was kind of a gap between sales leaders, in these older generations and millennials. What they were saying and the words they were using weren't really connecting with millennials and connecting with me. So started Help Me Close to kind of bridge that gap between the two.
Gotcha. And so like a true salesman in the car, right?
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm in the car, and you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes.
That's right. That's right. Got to hit the sales leads where they're at. So,
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, so kind of the whole thing that we always like to start with on the show is there's a lot of different opinions and thoughts on what productivity is. But I would like to know, Maxwell, what does productive mean to you when someone says that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is a really good question because, productive, it's subjective, and so, as I reflect on what it means to be productive, I can't help but think of this really great quote by Jim Valvano. And are you familiar with him?
Yeah, the NC State Wolfpack head coach, right?
Yeah, exactly. So,
former.
For those who don't know, he was a fantastic college basketball coach for North Carolina State. And in 1983, he had this miraculous NCAA championship victory. Anyways, so one of the things that really made Coach Jimmy V such a great coach was he's very inspiring and motivational.
Yep.
And to pick, so you can picture him a little bit better. For those who don't know him, he's an Italian guy, so he was loud and always using his hands and very animated. And unfortunately, he died at a very young age, at 47, due to bone cancer. And just 8 weeks before he died, he got to speak at the ESPYs, which is an ESPN award thing. And during that speech, he said, "To me, there are three things that everyone should do every day. Number one is laugh. Number two is think, spend some time in thought. And number three is you should have your emotions move to tears." And then he continued to say, if you laugh, think, and cry, that's a heck of a day. And I really like that, Jake, because if you think about it, if you really do those three things, you're going to have a great day. And if you're going to have a great day, to me, that's being productive.
Right.
So, I mean, sometimes we get caught up in, the business aspect of life and making money and doing our to-do list. But I think at the end of the day, if we keep that perspective of doing those three things, we're going to be productive. And then I would add a fourth, and that is to help somebody.
Okay.
So if I'm able to have a day where I'm able to laugh, think, be moved to tears, and then help somebody, to me, that's being productive.
That's great. That's a really kind of fresh approach to getting to productive. I like that because, like you said, like if you're doing those things, that means you're probably conversing with people at some sort of level that's beyond just surface, which means you're probably talking about important things and stuff that matters for your day, right?
Yeah, and especially for like me and my role in sales and what I'm doing.
Right.
It's really important to be able to have empathy and show that empathy, and being able to show those emotions, I think helps, connect with clients and prospects on another level that, we need as human beings. We need that interaction. I spend a lot of time on social media, doing things, especially on LinkedIn. And I've noticed that so many people are connecting with profiles and not connecting with people.
Right.
And, these things that I just mentioned, you can do these things on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you just have to kind of take a step back and stop worrying about, profile views or, adding people, and
Right.
think about, who is the person behind the profile.
Well, and that's how you and I met, right?
Exactly. That's exactly how we met, was through LinkedIn. And then having conversation and taking that conversation, from being, digital to being over the phone.
Yeah. And just for those, I think this is a great kind of example of what Maxwell's talking about. So I'll just kind of expand on that a little bit. Is I think you maybe commented on a post of mine or something, or saw something, and you reached out through InMail or something, and you didn't ask me for anything, and you didn't offer any service. You just said, "Hey, notice we are similar in some area, and just liked what you posted the other day about X, Y, or Z. Hope your day goes well," or just something really relational. And just today I got 3 requests and emails for people pitching their services in LinkedIn. So like, you stood out so refreshingly, so obviously, that, I'm extroverted anyway. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to talk to this dude. This is great. And so, yeah, we just had a conversation about kind of talking shop. And then we got on the phone and kind of shared some stuff we've been learning. And then I think, and then now I was like, this would be a good dude to have on my show. So
and I love doing that with people. So, I mean, if, anybody listening out there, if you want to connect, go ahead, find me on LinkedIn, shoot me a message, and let's have a conversation.
Right. Yeah. We'll definitely put that information in the blog when it goes up too as well. So that's great. I love that. That's an awesome thought around productivity, is really kind of from a relational versus maybe a process standpoint. So that's cool stuff. So what would you say, like, when you're trying to stay focused on being relational and doing those 4 things that you're talking about, what kind of gets in your way? Like, how do you kind of stay focused and make sure those things happen for you?
That's a really tough question. Just because there's so many distractions out there now in the world, and it's just so easy to become distracted. I was doing a show recently with this company, Ambition, and with the chief marketing officer, Jeremy, and we were doing a review of this tech guide that they've launched. And they have a section dedicated specific to millennials. And in there, he shared this statistic that kind of blew my mind. And he said that the average attention span of a millennial is like 8 seconds or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, I think that what we're going to see is the ability to stay focused and not get distracted is going to become more and more important. And it's going to really separate, top performers versus the mediocre performers. And so one of the ways that I've been, because I'm constantly learning and trying to find new ways of staying focused, but one of the ways that I've been able to stay focused is I like to get in what I call, the zone. And so the zone, to me, what it is, it's something that's always changing depending on the task that I'm doing and the task that I'm working on. And so I've systematically thought about what conditions I need to have in order to be productive while I'm working on that specific task.
Okay.
So, let me just give you a quick example that is, completely random, but like, let's say I'm doing cooking, right? And then I'm cooking dinner for my family. And in order for me to be able to be productive while cooking, and cook a delicious meal, there's certain things that I need set up in my kitchen. And one is, I need the right ingredients, and then I need to have the right pots and pans, and I need to have a clean kitchen space. Like, if I don't have a clean kitchen space, it just throws everything off.
Okay.
So in order for me to get in the zone when I'm cooking, I have to systematically have those things set up. And I've noticed that when I do that, I can be much, much more productive.
Right.
And so, using that as example, or relating it to more business aspect, if I'm writing, like, let's say a LinkedIn blog post or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
I know systematically what things I need to have in order for me to be the most effective that I can be during that period of time.
Right. And so that's the first person I remember talking about that was Tim Ferriss back in 4 Hour Work Week when he wrote that back in 2000 or something, a long time ago. It's hard to believe it's been that long, but and he calls that environment design.
Okay.
And it's very much because he's very like Asian culture he's into, and it's I think it's a Zen type thing as well as minimalism and understanding what's the basic things I need to succeed here. And there's another guy, gosh, I was just trying to remember his name. He's one of my favorite bloggers. I've met him in person a couple times. Love this guy. He blogs on habits. He's bald like me. Anyway, I'll think of it. But he talks a lot about environment design. And one of the examples he gave was flossing his teeth, because most people hate to floss their teeth.
Yeah.
And he said that's where those little floss little sticks. And he said it's not enough to just buy the sticks. Like that's more convenient, but that doesn't actually help you remember or encourage you to do it. So he has a little bowl with a stack of them in there that he puts on the sink in the morning. And he comes in, whatever, wakes up, go to the bathroom, do the things you do, but it's always right there in front of him by his toothbrush. So he's reminded and just picked up the habit that way. Because he made it really simple on himself. So taking that attitude into any sort of day-to-day activity that you're doing, I love environment design. I'm a nut about that myself. So
yeah, I haven't heard it worded that way. I actually haven't had a chance to read Tim Ferriss's book yet.
Okay.
Definitely familiar with who he is, just haven't had a chance to read any of his books. But now that you've said that, that's something I'm definitely going to dive into and research more and further perfect.
Well, he's got his new ones. He has a new book out that just launched called Tools of Titans, which I'm assuming he'll probably cover all this stuff. So I'm looking forward. I've got that on my Amazon want list to buy here soon.
Nice.
Yeah. Cool. So I know you said distraction was a big challenge that kind of comes about, and it like changes in your environment, whether it's you're a new boss or a different job position. What else sort of things kind of get in your way as someone in sales or in training? You're in sales training too, right? Is what other challenges keep you from being productive?
Man, I think in sales there's a ton of distractions. I mean, because a lot of sales is mental, really. And so, I mean, if you're working on this deal, and then sometimes you can get really emotionally invested into this deal, it's going to be a big deal. You're going to get a big commission. You calculate the numbers, and then they go dark on you, or they choose your competitor. That can be really mentally, taxing on you. Right. So that can be a large challenge to overcome. The other thing too with sales that I've noticed for me personally, and so I'm going to assume it's this way for other people as well, is sales can be really emotional. And when you're selling to somebody, it's very emotional. And so because of that, I find that my personal life can become very involved in my work life, or maybe not involved isn't the right word, but maybe influence. So like maybe if things aren't in order in my personal life, then it can really throw off my sales rhythm as well. So, there's a lot of different challenges that you can go through in sales, and I'm sure other industries as well, other professions that really can cut into your productivity.
Right. That makes sense. And it works both ways, right? So if business is going well, it can cause you to just be a better partner in your home life and things like that. So
yeah.
Cool. So one of the major things we talk about on the podcast is accountability. Whether it's someone you work with, or a process that you keep yourself accountable to, or things like that. Who or what do you use to keep yourself accountable?
So I'm going to talk about two things. And the first thing that comes to my mind when it comes to being accountable is I think that we need to have a greater self-understanding and emotional, EQ or whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
about ourselves, so that when we do notice that we're going through these times of distraction or change, or maybe our confidence is being hurt, we can get ourselves back on track.
Mm-hmm.
And so, actually recently I wrote an article on LinkedIn about this, where I was looking at some of my favorite athletes and thinking about them and the challenges that they go through.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically, for me, there's this commercial that I really, really enjoy that I saw 10 years ago. It's a Michael Jordan commercial, and it's entitled, what's it called? It's Not About the Shoes. And I don't know if you're into basketball. Yeah, it was a really influential commercial, and it starts out, it's showing these top athletes like Ray Allen, Carmelo Anthony, and Chris Paul. And it's showing their successes and their challenges. And then while it's playing and showing them playing their sport, you hear Michael Jordan in the background who's doing the narration. And the last two lines are, he says, "It's not about the shoes, it's about what you do in them. It's about being who you are born to be." And the reason why I bring this up is because for me, when I hear that, it reminds me of who I am. It reminds me of what I'm capable of, and it reminds me of my purpose. And so if I'm able to remember those three things, it ignites me. It gets me fired up. It gets my passion going.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that if we as individuals have these tokens, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
That can ignite that passion and ignite that fire for us when we get off track, I think that's really what separates some of the elite from the mediocre, is they know those things. They know what they need to do in order to get back on track.
Yeah, on top of your mental game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the other point that I was going to say too is, who keeps me accountable is my wife.
Mm-hmm.
Her and I, we share everything together, and she's really like what motivates me and inspires me.
Mm-hmm.
So she's at home. We have two young boys, and she's a full-time mom, and she's got the hardest job out there.
Yep.
And I always tell, whoever I'm doing business with, whoever I'm talking to, if you're working with me, you actually have her working with you too, or a 2-for-1 deal. And I think having that, having someone like that in your life, whether it's a spouse or a really good friend or a significant other, almost outside of work, I think that can be tremendous influence.
Yeah, especially for the mental game part, for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Cool. Well, Maxwell, kind of to end things up here, I would say, appreciate the fresh approach. This is, we talk a lot of process and tactics and activities and strategy, and it's nice to hear someone talking kind of more the mental side, the emotional side, and things like that, because it's really a great underlying foundational piece to all this, right? So if you could tell the listener one thing tomorrow to go out and do to immediately start seeing some improvement in whether it's their marketing campaigns, their sales technique, their closings, whatever it is, what do you think your kind of one piece of advice for today would be for them?
Oh, man. It's really hard to narrow it down to just one.
Yep.
But I think, there's a phrase that's, ever since I heard it, it's really stuck with me. And that phrase is purpose-driven, and to be purpose-driven. And so in order to become purpose-driven, you have to first discover your purpose. Mm-hmm. Simon Sinek, he refers to it as, your why.
Start with why.
Start with why, exactly. And I think sometimes people fail to, they find out their why, they find out their purpose, but sometimes they fail to make that next step of becoming purpose-driven.
Right.
And to me, what that means is every single action I'm doing, that day is motivated by that purpose. Mm-hmm. So, sometimes you have to get up early in the morning, and instead of, having a bad attitude and complaining about having to get up, you have a perspective of, I get to get up, I think Zig Ziglar refers to his alarm clock as, an opportunity alarm.
Oh yeah.
And let your purpose and of why you're getting up really motivate you, and again, ignite that fire inside of you to get things done.
Right. Yeah, that's great.
My one piece of advice would be to take some time, find out your purpose, let it ignite you, and become purpose driven.
Right, that's great. And Simon Sinek's a good person to look at. I like Michael Hyde as well. He has a life plan program that's very driven the same way. There's a lot of guys out there and females that do a great job of that. So I love that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Well, Maxwell, appreciate the time today, man. It's been great chatting with you, and just thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jake. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Is there anything before we go that you want to plug, talk about your website or anything else that you'd love for people to look at?
Yeah, just, check out the website, helpmeclose.com, where we're all about helping out millennials in B2B sales and leadership. We got some great new things coming out. Going to be launching a YouTube channel and a podcast in the next couple of weeks.
Awesome.
So check it out. Awesome.
Cool. Well, thanks a bunch, Maxwell. Have a good afternoon. We'll talk to you later.
Great. Thanks, Jake.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
This has been the Productive Point of View podcast.